You're listening to the WaxPackHero Sports Card Minute, a podcast where we discuss both the hobby and business sides of collecting. I'm your host, Mike Summer, and I want to help you buy, sell, and trade your way into a collection you'll love. Hello, and thanks again for tuning in. Today's episode is going to be somewhat of a mailbag show. Not too long ago, I made a tweet about a bulk collection that I had picked up from a local collector I know who breaks a lot of boxes and cases, and I had talked about how I got a lot of around 2,000 to 2,400 2019 Bowman Draft chrome base and refractors and inserts for around $150. On some of the prior episodes, I talked about how I use sport lots to sell a lot of base cards and insert cards. And so I had received a couple questions since I made that post or that tweet about where in the world do I find these things. And so people were kind of amazed at the price that I paid for that many cards and were curious on where I find these lots to buy. And so I thought I would just take a second to answer that question because I think it's something that could help a lot of people. And we'll kind of talk through where I find these cards, where I find these bulk lots, and then what are some of the considerations that you need to keep in mind if you're going to look for some similar lots. And so the first is the sources of these case contents. For me, there's really been three main sources that I've had luck with when it comes to finding these bulk lots of base and inserts that I've been able to get for a good price. And the first one is local people I know who open a lot of boxes and sometimes even cases and don't want the base and inserts. There's still a lot of people out there who really only chase either low serial numbered cards or the low serial numbered cards and all of the hits, the autos and the relics, and they don't want to mess with the rest. And so I've been able to build some relationships with the people who frequent my LCS, and a lot of times they will either hold them back for me or I'll know where to go, and I'll reach out and I'll say, hey, what are you going to do with all of those base? And we're able to work out a deal. And so one of the first places that I go is people that I have met that I know locally who don't want to mess with base and inserts. And that has a big advantage, and that's you don't have to worry about shipping. So that just helps minimize my cost that much more, is when I don't have to add any kind of shipping cost onto that. I'm able to just get that right away. Another source that I've had luck with from time to time is eBay. And that one takes a little more searching. You have to be a little more creative in how you find them. But for instance, you can do a search for Topps case base and inserts, or Topps box break base and inserts, things like that. And you'll come across big lots of bulk Topps base and inserts, and the same thing for Panini products or Upper Deck products. The same general concept applies. As I was getting ready to record this, I did a quick search, and even right now there was a huge lot of 2018 Heritage High that was out there for $650. It looked like it had somewhere around 20 or 25 complete sets worth, a few hundred high short printed high number cards, and a bunch of inserts. Now, $650 isn't that great. It's not that much of a value. It's not a steal, but it's just an example of one of the bulk lots that's out there right now. There's actually another 2019 Heritage High one that was out there for $250. I think it was 4,000 cards. That one would have taken a little more digging. It didn't really specify what the breakdown was, if the short prints were in there, and then what percentage of that 4,000 cards was inserts versus just the standard 501 through 700, and that can be a big difference with a heritage product depending on what that breakdown is. But again, that's just another example of what's out there. And there's even a Prism box or a Prism basketball lot that I saw that was only a few hundred cards for around $40. I think ended up being somewhere around 7 or 8 cents per card. And again, it didn't get into a lot of detail on if there were stars or any of the rookies or anything like that included. But there are just examples out there where you can get some bulk lots anywhere from a few pennies up to a nickel a piece. And depending on the set, that can be a good deal. Now, this really comes into play right around release time. at the time of this recording, we're kind of in between releases, but within that first week of a major product, you can find quite a few of these case break contents out there on eBay. So when Top Series 1 comes out, when Heritage comes out, those are the best time on some of these eBay listings where you can find people who are only busting for the hits and just dumping off the rest. And so check eBay, especially during those times when a new product is just being released. The third place that I've had luck finding some of these big bulk lots of base and insert is the Blowout Forums. Now there's two places that you really need to look on the forums. The first one is in the box break, case break section. Now, it's not intended to be a place where you go to sell cards, but a lot of times people will go and they'll post pictures of what they broke, some of the big hits that they're proud of, some of the big parallels that they got that they're proud of. And if you look closely, sometimes they will put everything's available or everything but the hits is available. And so even though they're not explicitly selling, they're kind of giving that indication that, hey, I'm open to having a conversation about taking the rest of this stuff off my hands. And then you can send them a private message through the messaging app on the forum and start to work out a deal. The other place is in the actual buy-sell trade section. And so oftentimes you will see people who, again, using the same concept, will bust some boxes, bust a case, and they will specifically list the rest. Sometimes they'll list prices on everything, including the hits. Sometimes they'll list the hits and say everything else, $150, $200, whatever it might be, depending on the product. And so the Blowout Forums are another great source that you can check if you want to try to find some of these bulk lots. So now, how do you know what a good price is? That's another key component. Like I said, with what I saw on eBay, there was one lot of Heritage High that was $650, which didn't seem like that great of a deal. Another Heritage High lot of $250, which could be a fantastic deal, or it might also be on the expensive side. So how do you know what a good price is when you're looking at some of these bulk lots? And I think the key is you need to familiarize yourself with a couple things. And the first one is complete set prices. You need to think about if there are short prints and or parallels and what those sell for. And third is the insert card prices. And you need to be thinking about all three of those things through the lens of whatever platform you're planning to sell on. For instance, on sport lots, I make a killing selling inserts. Flagship Topps inserts sell great. I've had luck selling Score Football inserts, Heritage inserts. Inserts are something that I've done very, very well with on sport lots. But at the same time, if you don't want to mess with sport lots and your preferred place to sell is ComC, you'll lose your shirt. Those have no value if you're going to be a ComC seller, because an insert card that I can sell for 35 or 40 cents on sport lots and still clear a quarter on ComC, you're not even going to barely be able to cover your processing fee. And so it's almost worthless to you to try to sell on ComC, whereas I can get a lot of value out of that on sport lots. If you're an eBay seller, you have to be willing to be able to either sell those in bulk, which you lose a little bit of margin that way, or else you have to be able to be comfortable with being a PWE shipper, which I am, in order to help make that worthwhile, because those you can still sell for 99 cents or $1.50 with free shipping. After all of your fees and your stamps and everything, you still clear 25, 30 cents and you do all right. And so I say all that because it really depends on what platform you're going to sell on, how much you can be willing to pay for some of these types of things. The same thing falls with complete sets. Some flagship complete sets will sell anywhere from $10 up to $25 and $30, depending on what it is. Heritage, you can be anywhere from $20 or $25 without short prints, all the way up to $150 or more if you're going to sell a master set with all of the inserts. However, on eBay, shipping complete sets can eat up a lot of the cost. If you have a place locally where you can sell off complete sets, that might be a great avenue to help recoup a lot of that cost. I set up at shows, and so I sell sets at shows. I know in our area there's 2 different LCSs that don't put together sets on their own, but some of their better customers or some of their key customers that they've got a relationship with, they will allow them to bring in hand collated sets and put them on the shelf and then share some of that revenue. And so if you've got an in-person platform like that eliminates the need for shipping, that can be a great way to use complete sets, hand collated complete sets, to recoup a lot of that cost. And so if you've got one of those avenues, you're able to pay a little bit more, or that gives you that much more of a margin with the price that you're paying for some of these bulk lots. And the same thing for other short prints and parallels. If it's a heritage type set and they're including short prints that I can get $1 to $5 a piece for, I'm able to pay a whole lot more for that lot than I would be if it's purely a heritage lot with all of the common low series cards. And so those are some of the things that you've got to keep in mind when you think about what price you're willing to pay. There are places that you can go to get some great deals on bulk lots of basin inserts, and if you want to be a reseller, that can be a great low-risk way to start to generate some sales to offset some of the other hobby costs that you find yourself in. The sources that I use for those bulk lots are local people I know who break a lot of wax. Second is eBay. Third is the Blowout Forums. And so I hope that helped answer the question on where I source some of these basin inserts that I either turn into sets or I list individually. Hope you find some value in that, and it gets you started if you want to do the same thing. If you've got any questions, feel free to reach out. I'd love to help in whatever way I can. I'd love it for you to also take a second to subscribe on your podcast app of choice, and please leave a rating and review. I'd really appreciate hearing what you have to say. If you'd like to sponsor the show, send me a note at WaxPackHero@gmail.com or reach out on Twitter at TheMikeSummer, and I'd love to talk. Thanks, and I'll catch you next time.